1. These events all happened a few years ago, while I was in college, and it was over the course of a few months while I was pet-sitting at different times. In college, I did a lot of pet-sitting for extra money. It was a great side job. Get paid to hang out with dogs and take care of them. Nice, a lot of the time I would stay at the person's house, because it helped the dogs stay calm to have someone with them, and because the owner wanted to make sure nothing went wrong with their house while they were gone. So there was one house. It was old and in a very quiet neighborhood. As in, I don't think anyone in the neighborhood was under the age of 55 or 60. And I very rarely even heard cars on the roads. The backyard was very deep and had a ton of trees, so you couldn't see your backyard neighbor because of all the foliage, and both houses to the side were empty. One was under construction and the other was a rental that was empty, and stayed empty for months. I'm pretty sure the lady who owned the house I was helping with said that the owner was very sick, but again, this was years ago and I might be misremembering. Either way, the neighborhood noise factor was absolutely zero, which was great for a big old dog and a student trying to study. Now, on to the weird bits. The house was close enough to my university that I could swing by during my breaks between classes to let the dog out. One day, right around noon, I was standing in the dining room sorting the owner's mail, junk mail ads she had asked me to throw away. On the table, there was an unopened full 20-pound bag of dog food. It was near the center of the table. The walls of the dining room were about 3 feet from the edge of the table, enough to walk around and scoot a chair at, but not large. Anyway, I'm standing there, still sorting the mail. The dog is laying at my feet, also still. There are no cars driving by, no air, no draft. And this 20-pound bag of dog food suddenly goes flying off the table, hard enough to hit the wall. It went parallel to the door, hit the wall and dropped down. Not like it just fell over and hit the floor. It looked like it had been swept off the table or thrown somehow. But nothing in the entire house was moving. The AC wasn't even on. I remember because I had been considering turning it on for the afternoon, in case the dog got hot. I had to get back to class, but I didn't understand how it could have happened. How does a full bag of dog food fly something like 4 or 5 feet so fast and hit the wall so hard? The next time I was there, a few weeks later, this owner traveled a bit for work. I was there frequently. I was feeding the dog. Now, this dog is old, so he had a metal food stand for his bowl so he didn't have to bend down so far. You could always hear when he was eating or drinking because the food bowls would clank against the stand. This time, I heard the clanking for a while and thought it was weird that the dog was taking so long to eat his dinner. Usually he was quick about it. I had been getting my stuff set up to start my homework and could still hear the clanking. I didn't think anything of it. Maybe he was getting a really long drink, I thought, until I looked down and realized the dog was right next to me, and I could still hear the clanking. I got up to see what was going on, but the second I turned the corner and could see the food bowls, the clanking stopped. I checked if the bowls were over or under a vent or if a window was open. I checked to see if there were any cars going by, but I hadn't heard anything. And I was closer to the road getting my homework set up than the dog bowl was, by a significant amount. Also, the sound was very rhythmic. I thought a dog was eating, after all, and it was late enough that the construction crew next door had wrapped up hours before. It also stopped the second I saw the bowl, not before and not after. After that, I asked my girlfriend to come stay with me while I was there. One night, we were hanging out watching Netflix and petting the dog. We decided to go to bed and paused the show. It was about 1 a.m. Just a reminder, both houses to the side were empty, and the backside neighbor was too far away to even see. After a moment or so of silence, both my girlfriend and I and the dog heard a voice speaking. The dog perked up his head and was looking between the front and back doors. My girlfriend heard the noise from around the front door. I heard it from around the back near the dining room, with the table and the dog bowls. The sound was fairly distinctively someone speaking, but it sounded muffled, like from another room. We looked out the windows, and there were no other lights on in the neighborhood, and we heard no cars, like I said, old-person neighborhood. We didn't see anyone outside, despite the streetlights, the clear lines of sight. No one could get into the rental property, it was padlocked up tight, and you could see pretty well through the gutted construction that there wasn't anyone there either. The dog also couldn't pinpoint where the sound was coming from. Had it been a car driving by or a radio, the house was dead center of a long residential road, and the only other road dead-ended directly into this house. As in, if the curtains weren't drawn, oncoming headlights from this road would be blinding. But there weren't any headlights or taillights on the road, and no car noises that we could hear, other than a few random things. The last thing that happened was the next time I stayed there. My girlfriend and I were getting ready. She was in the bathroom. I was getting dressed in the bedroom right next door. There was a small hallway between the two doors, and we both heard a woman's voice scream my name, but it sounded faint. But the sound was originating from the hallway. My name is fairly unique, and that was also the only sound. Had it been someone outside yelling, which the sound acoustics would have been insane for it to sound that way in the interior hallway of another house, at least 2 houses away, I imagine we also would have heard something else they were yelling. Both my girlfriend and I stepped out of the rooms we were in independently of the other. We both heard it, and hadn't said anything ourselves. I don't know if the dog heard this one, he wasn't in my line of sight. The last thing I remember happening was the last night I stayed there. I was by myself. This one is a little weird because I was asleep, so take that as you will. I easily could have been dreaming, but it was still odd, so I'm including it. Typically, when I fall asleep, nothing in the world will wake me up. I have to be very careful with my alarms. Dogs barking, sirens, storms, I've slept through it all. This last night, though, I woke up, completely. You know how you're normally groggy when you wake up? I'm normally that 10 times, but in the middle of the night, I woke up from a dead sleep, not even dreaming that I can remember, completely and totally awake and lucid. I didn't open my eyes, though, maybe just a bad feeling. I was asleep near the edge of the bed, and I heard what I assumed was the same woman's voice. It sounded like it was coming from the edge of the bed, like someone was crouching there talking at me. This bedroom is far removed from the front and back doors where I heard the sound before, but it was the same. Like a woman speaking, but from a different room, just somehow closer. I didn't open my eyes at any point. The way I saw it, there was either going to be something there or there wasn't, and either way it wasn't going to be good. So I just rolled over and went back to sleep. I asked the owner, and she said that she definitely thought the place was haunted. Now, people I have told this story to have offered a few suggestions, and yes, this house did have a basement, but the only thing down there was a washer and dryer, which I never used and were never on while I was there. The owner has also said she definitely thought the place was haunted. Now, people I have told this story to have offered a few suggestions, and yes, this house did have a basement, but the only thing down there was a washer and dryer, which I never used and were never on while I was there. The owner also had most of the insulation in the house replaced. So I don't know that it could be rats or mice in the walls. I heard many squirrels and small animals on the roof, and none of the sounds matched what I heard. None of the appliances did either. Like I said, I stayed there a lot. I got used to the regular sounds of the house, and I imagine the dog was even more used to the regular sounds, and he reacted a few times to the unexpected. Street noise was easy to keep track of. There was very little, and the construction crew next door worked regular hours, about 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. It was a very safe neighborhood overall. The type of neighborhood with quaint houses and rose trellises, if that gives you an idea. There were a few other odd incidents. Weird brushing, lights flickering, creaks, but those are easily explainable. Wood floors, old house with weird lights, and me being in a somewhat unfamiliar place, and probably bumping into more things than usual. I wouldn't consider those anything too odd. Definitely very odd. And the only house I've ever stayed in, where I felt genuinely uncomfortable to be alone. I would love some explanations if you have any. Please tell me your thoughts, because I've thought about this a lot over the years. 2. Preface. I have always believed in the paranormal and supernatural. Apparently, I've had experiences around me since I was born, though the ones I personally remember have been more recent. This is a recount of some of the more recent experiences from this summer. So this summer I've been having some weird things happen to me. Starting back in June, I've been seeing what looks to be a young girl in a white dress out of the corner of my eye at random times in random places. She seems to be a couple feet shorter than I am, roughly 3.5 to 4.5 feet tall, messy blonde hair and an old, almost nightgown-like white dress. Most often when I see her, I'm in the kitchen grabbing a snack at 4 a.m., and I see her out of the corner of my eye. She's peeking around the corner of a wall, spying on me. I usually feel like someone is watching me. It's something I've always felt, and kinda just got used to it. Other times I've seen her as at work. I work at a coffee shop, so there will be times when I'm doing a close. I'll be out in the empty cafe, sweeping up for the night. I've seen her dart past the wall, going toward the cleaning closet. Yes, customers can go that way, as it does lead to the bathrooms. But I know for a fact there were no customers in this store, and my other 2 co-workers were on the other side, serving the drive-thru and making coffee. Could have possibly been a reflection. But it would have been a really HD reflection of someone running past me to the washroom, as they would have had to come from the staff area to get around me from where I was sweeping. To sort of clarify, and to add to possible debunking, I do have younger siblings and pets. None of my siblings dress or have something that would look like this gown. Only one of them is blonde, and he is much taller than I am, and my little sister has dark hair, and is also taller than what I see. Pets-wise, I have cats and dogs, and none of them would be able to mimic a person peeking around the corner at me. I've never straight-on spotted her, it's always out of the corner of my eye, and she's gone when I turn to look. The last, most recent, and biggest experience was someone pulling my beard. I have a pretty long beard that I take pride in. I was laying down to sleep one night because I had to work early the next day. Everyone else had gone to bed much earlier, and my parents were working nights, so they were long gone. My cat likes to sleep in my room, but he was already next to me, curled up by my legs. Light tends to keep me up, so I sleep with my head between my pillows. I have it arranged a certain way that it's just my eyes covered to block out any light. I was settling in, my eyes closed, and I had an audiobook playing when my beard was tugged out of nowhere. Right side of my jaw just pulled hard. Startled me up. I turned the lamp on, and I was alone in the room save for my cat, still by my legs, looking at me like I was nuts. My door was closed, as I had it, and I was alone. My jaw ached for a bit, stung like it would if someone tugged on your hair, but there were no marks. Eventually I managed to fall asleep, and since then, I haven't experienced anything else like this. This last experience happened back in the middle of July, and since then, I do still feel like I'm being watched, but I haven't seen whatever it was I saw. 3. These events started around the time that I was 8 or 9 years old. It started out as an uneasy feeling which slowly grew into full-blown fear. At first, I would feel as though someone was breathing down my neck while I was on my way back to my room, after grabbing some water upstairs, and almost seeing a shadow figure at the end of the passage that my room is in. I thought it was nothing. A while later, I woke up in the middle of the night. I don't know how to explain it, other than my room feeling like it was filled with hate, and went to my brother's room to sleep on his floor since it made me feel safer. The next night I woke up to what I've come to know as a shadow person. The same hate filled my bedroom, only this time it was increased tenfold. I could not move and could barely manage to scream, yet managed to fall asleep again, despite his eyes piercing into me. I've grown to feel as though whatever this is, it isn't friendly, but will leave me alone if I pretend it never existed. What I've just described happened at my mother's house, however. 4 years later I saw the same figure at my father's house. This didn't happen after waking up either. It was 6 or 7 p.m. and I was wide awake. The house I lived in with my mother was owned by her and then my stepfather, and their relationship ended not long after and we moved out, deciding to rent out the house we were in. This will be important later. That's when things really started to creep me out. I could literally feel the breathing on my neck when I would wake up in the middle of the night in our new home. And I swear that I could hear whatever it was whispering behind me, but could never figure out what was being said. One night, after waking up from the same feeling and the same sounds, I heard what sounded like a golf ball bouncing on our tiled stairs that led to the bedrooms. However, it was bouncing up the stairs and not down. We didn't even own anything to do with golf, or any form of balls, so I can't explain that. This carried on until I was 16. That's when we decided to move back to the old house. When we moved back, the house was all but ruined by the tenants we'd let it to. The windows had been covered with those green mesh screens that one would use in gardening. The creepiest part of it is that the tenants had left the house and couldn't be found, even after the police whom they had been reported to for not paying the rent and for theft, as well as letters and numbers drawn on every single door leading outside of the house. After digging up as much as we could, my mother eventually found out all the markings were blessings. But why were they needed on every single door? The thing is, ever since our door was busted open with an axe when we were robbed and the door was removed, there has been strange noises coming from the roof. Almost like steps, not cat or rat steps, but heavy thudding, going from one end of the home to the next. And this isn't a small house. Eventually, we had someone come in, but nothing, no cat poop, no rat poop, no sign of any activity in there. Around the same time, I was looking after my father's house while he was away with my friend. We had gone to shop and come back with some food for dinner. Now, something I should tell you about homes where I live is that they are very similar to compounds, high walls and motorized driveway gates. The driveway gate was closed once we got inside the property, and we were listening to some music before going to eat inside the house. That's when a set of bright headlights came up behind us. However, when we turned to look, nothing. It would have been explainable as stress on my part had it just been me who saw it, however it wasn't. My friend saw it too. To this day, no explanation. To this very day, 15 years later, there are still noises in the roof. Sometimes they go away for ages, however, if someone brings it up out loud, they come back. I wish I could explain it, but I can't, and I can only hope others share something similar, since I may find some comfort in that. I think whatever it is following me. 4. At around 3 a.m. last night, my girlfriend came home from an event and we got pretty hungry, so we started making late-night snacks. In her kitchen there's a big window that is above the sink in which you are able to get a viewing of the side of her house, and the side gate of the neighbors. At night, you can't really see much because there aren't any porch lights, and the street has very few light posts. So the only light that could be seen outside is the moonlight, or from the neighbors' windows. We decided to stay up for a few more hours because, why not? So I started making some coffee for her and I, while she went to fix herself up in the restroom. Here is where things start to get weird. I grabbed a spoon so I could scoop some sugar into my coffee, and I noticed a faint blue circle on my jacket, a red hoodie. As soon as I noticed it completely, it was gone. I looked outside and there weren't any lights on, and the only thing I could see through the window was the entire kitchen because of how bright the kitchen lights are. I tried replicating the blue light with the spoon because I thought maybe something had reflected off of it, or something else in the kitchen and onto my shirt, but I couldn't. And I wasn't facing anything of the color blue either. I brushed it off instantly, thinking it was just my imagination, and after that everything was normal. Until this morning. Very cliché transitioning, I know, I'm sorry. My girlfriend's mother came home earlier this morning, complaining about cookies on the floor near her room, and she began blaming the cat and dog, but both of them were asleep in the room with us the entire night, with the door closed. Her room is currently in the midst of renovation, so our first conclusion was one of the workers did a piss-poor job at cleaning whatever snack they were eating while working. However, upon further inspection, my girlfriend's sister realized that the cookie pieces on the floor were from a cookie container that was inside of her room. One that she hadn't opened for months. Now, it sounds like it could have just been a crazy coincidence that the workers had been eating the same exact cookies that her sister had in her room. But what's even weirder is that there were also crumbs around my girlfriend's cookie container on her dresser, as if someone came in and ate some. Her door was locked, and even if it wasn't, it's extremely unlikely that one of the workers would have come into her room while she was asleep, because the dog would have barked at anyone coming in. Once we discussed this, my girlfriend then tells us that last night she saw something blue moving outside of that same kitchen window. She didn't tell me because I get anxious easily and thought I wouldn't be able to sleep because of me being on high alert. She says that it really looked like a blue wing. With all of this added up, I can't help but think, were we visited by a fairy last night? I've heard they're attracted to sweets, and they're active late at night. That would explain the strange blue light I saw moments before my girlfriend apparently saw the flash of a blue wing. I've also heard they appear differently to people, so maybe that's why I was only able to see a blue light, while she witnessed the actual wing. I find it more convincing that last night's encounter was indeed a fairy, because a few years ago, while tripping on shrooms for the very first time, my friends and I were looking for a car in the complete darkness, as we were just coming back from a hiking trail. On our way up, I saw what appeared to be a firefly, and to my knowledge, fireflies do not appear where we were hiking. It was a green, and it glowed but very faintly. I tried swatting at it, and it vanished into thin air. The light looked exactly like the blue one I saw last night, except a bit more otherworldly. I'd like to blame the shrooms on that one. So was it fairies? Have you guys experienced anything like this before? Do you guys recommend anything we should do? I doubt they are here with any malicious intent. Everyone in this house is pretty respectful to nature and, in general, positive individuals. 5. This happened when I was younger. I'm an army brat from a large family. Every summer, when we were young, we would travel home, usually staying with my mother's parents. My grandpa was a long-haul truck driver, and was usually away quite a bit. When I was younger, it was a habit for many of us that could fit to sleep in our grandparents' bed while he was away. I always felt strange in that house, not uneasy, but strange nonetheless. This was my first true paranormal experience, but definitely not the scariest. One night as I was sleeping in bed with my grandma and younger cousins, I looked up, groggy from sleep, to see the figure of a woman. She was young, dark-haired, and looking right at me. I could tell she meant no harm. It was as if she was simply watching over us like a guardian spirit. Then, just like that, she was gone. I never saw the ghost, or guardian spirit, whatever she may have been, while staying with my grandparents after that night. But maybe we will meet again. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Paranormal Stories, episode 246. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories and sent in stories for use in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do like, subscribe, and spend some time considering this. Given that, theoretically, God is infinite, and that the universe is also infinite, is a burger a sandwich? Alright, I also have a little shout out to do to the author of the first story. That was the haunted pet sitting gig. That goes to Reddit user Admiral Lara Lani. Thank you very much for allowing us to use your story, Admiral Laralani. I salute you. Wait, do they do that in the Navy? Or do they make people walk the plank? I'm not sure what the sign of respect is there. Anyway, thank you very much. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.